a blue blanket, and 2 pillows. That's all that disappeared with 13-year-old Rachel Mellon on January 31st, 1996. No coat, despite the brutal cold, no wallet, no purse, not even the Sony Walkman she carried everywhere. Just a 7th grader wrapped in blue, vanishing from her own bed while homesick with a sore throat. 29 years later, Rachel is still missing. The only thing her family is clinging to is her diary, her horrific diary, hidden under her mattress, with stories no 13-year-old should tell. And yet her monstrous stepfather, the one mentioned in her diary, the one with inexplicable scars on his arms, remains free.
If they search that garage and open up the trunk of that car that didn't run, I bet they find her right then and there.
This is the terrifying story of Rachel Mellon. January 31st, 1996, Bolingbrook, Illinois. Temperature, -20 degrees. Wind chill, brutal. Snow everywhere. 13-year-old Rachel Marie Mellon Skemp stayed home from school with a sore throat. Her classmates at B.J. Ward Middle School wouldn't see her smiling face that day, or any day after. Rachel wasn't alone in her house on Melissa Drive. Her stepfather, Vincent Mellon, was there too, unemployed, the only adult present. At 10:45 that morning, Rachel called her grandmother, Lucy. She wanted to thank her for Christmas gifts, a normal call between grandmother and granddaughter. Then something changed. Mid-conversation, Rachel's voice dropped to a whisper. Grandma Lucy sensed the shift immediately. "Is he there?" she asked. "Yes," Rachel whispered. "I need to go now," she added quickly and hung up. It was the last time anyone outside that house would hear Rachel's voice. Vincent later told the police they played Nintendo for about an hour after that call. Then Rachel went to her room for a nap around 1:30 p.m. She wrapped herself in a blue blanket, placed her head on her favorite pillows, and closed her eyes. Or so Vincent claimed. At 2:30 p.m., Vincent says he checked on Rachel. "Still sleeping," he reported. Then, despite the bone-chilling cold, he decided to take Duke, the family's white German Shepherd, for a walk. He left the front door unlocked. During this 30-minute walk, Vincent claimed Duke slipped his collar while chasing a rabbit and ran off into a field. Vincent didn't chase after Duke. He simply abandoned the dog in sub-zero temperatures and returned home around 3 p.m. He never checked on Duke again. He never checked on Rachel again either. At 3:15 p.m., Rachel's 6.5-year-old sister Ashley returned from school. She noticed immediately that Rachel wasn't in her room. She asked Vincent where her big sister was. Vincent wasn't concerned. He offered no explanation, nor did he make any effort to search for her. Just listen to what he told the media at the time.
I didn't really look around the neighborhood as far as thinking, something might be suspicious. So, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. It's clear just how much he cared about Rachel. Between 4:30 and 5 p.m., a real estate agent found Duke wandering in a field near the Mellon home and returned him. Around the same time, Rachel's mom, Amy, returned home with her son, Jason. The moment she realized Rachel was missing, she called the police. By then, Rachel had been gone for hours. The blue blanket missing, 2 pillows gone, but her winter coat, shoes, wallet, and Walkman remained untouched. Who leaves home in -20 degree weather without a coat or shoes? No one. Rachel hadn't left willingly at all. If only Amy knew, she would never see her again. If only Amy knew who she had let into her family. Rachel Marie was born on October 13, 1982, to Jeff and Amy Skemp in Melrose Park, Illinois. She was just a toddler, not yet 3, when her parents divorced. Amy soon married Vincent Mellon, who promised to raise Rachel as his own. But Vincent was full of promises, the kind of promises narcissistic people make to their partners in the beginning. Big words, no gestures. But Amy saw the good in others. She didn't want to believe there were people out there with such bad intentions. Rachel's last name became hyphenated, Mellon Skemp, a bridge between 2 families that never truly connected. By 1996, Rachel was thriving at school. She made the honor roll regularly. Teachers praised her reading, writing, and science skills. She loved babysitting neighborhood kids and would quiz them on academic subjects. She talked about becoming a teacher someday. Her best friend, Carrie, said she was a silly girl who was always in great spirits regardless of what was going on in the house. I always tell people, she was an old soul. Rachel had recently discovered new passions: recycling, protecting the environment, singing, and dancing. She followed her parents' example by becoming a youth leader at the First Baptist Church. To anyone looking in from the outside, Rachel seemed to have everything: good grades, tons of friends, and a constant smile that spread like wildfire. Only her closest friends knew the truth about her home life. By 1990, just 5 years after Amy and Vincent married, violence erupted in their home. During one explosive fight, Vincent pushed Amy down the stairs. She filed a restraining order against him and then dropped it and took him back. The cycle had begun: violence, threats, forgiveness, repeat. By the time Amy realized what kind of monster she'd invited into her home, into her children's lives, the roots had grown too deep. Rachel wasn't just watching this cycle, she was trapped in it too. Vincent never truly accepted her as his own, and instead he used her as a weapon whenever he with Amy, threatening both of their lives. In the spring of 1995, at just 12 years old, Rachel ran away from home. She didn't get far. She slept outside a friend's house before her step-grandparents found her and returned her to the very home she'd fled. That summer, she spent a month with her biological father, Jeff, in Dallas, Texas. Before returning to Illinois, she begged her uncle to let her stay in Dallas. No one understood the desperation behind her plea. When Rachel returned to Illinois, something inside of her had changed. She knew what awaited her. She knew what Vincent was capable of. The day before she disappeared, January 30th, 1996, classmates found Rachel crying by her locker at school. This normally happy, ever-smiling girl was suddenly in tears. When friends asked her what was wrong, she only said she had a problem, but she would take care of it herself. She never got the chance. When police searched Rachel's bedroom after her disappearance, they found something hidden beneath her pillow. Something that made their hearts sink. A knife. Not a toy knife, not a souvenir. A real steak knife. Placed where she could grab it quickly if needed. A 13-year-old girl sleeping with a knife under her pillow isn't just unusual. It is a desperate cry for help. The investigators found her diary. Within those pages, written in Rachel's own handwriting, was the horrifying truth. An entry dated August 7th, 1995, detailed how Vincent had entered her room, kissed her inappropriately, and her. He violated the sacred trust between parent and child, all while claiming he was teaching her how acted so she could avoid them. But the only was in her own home. Police discovered more evidence of Vincent's disturbing behavior: an out-of-print book titled Daddy's describing inappropriate father-daughter relationships. The picture grew clearer and more sickening with each discovery. Vincent's scratched arms suddenly made sense. The mysterious disappearance without a coat, the unlocked door, the conveniently lost dog that somehow found its way home, the complete lack of concern when Rachel vanished. It wasn't just a disappearance, it was a final act in a prolonged nightmare. News of Rachel's disappearance spread quickly throughout Bolingbrook. Her friends from school, including her best friend Carrie, gathered that evening to help search. Despite the blistering cold, remember -20 degrees, they spent over an hour combing nearby streets and parks, desperately calling Rachel's name into the darkness. After an hour in the freezing temperatures, reality set in. They huddled together and cried, realizing their friend was truly gone. When Jeff Skemp, Rachel's biological father, received the call that his daughter was missing, he quit his job in Texas on the spot. He boarded the first flight to Illinois that he could find, and when he got to the Mellon home, he went straight to Rachel's room and lay on her bed. He picked up her Walkman, placed the headphones over his ears, and pressed play. The last song Rachel had listened to was Hand in My Pocket by Alanis Morissette, her favorite. She'd mentioned how much she loved the song during her summer visit with him just months earlier. When Jeff confronted Vincent about what happened, Vincent's response was coldly simple. Rachel must have been snatched while he was out walking the dog. He showed no urgency, no distress, no concern for the child he'd raised since she was a toddler. His voice was flat and his eyes were empty. Police launched an extensive search operation. They searched by ground and air. Divers checked nearby waters, Canine units tried to pick up her scent. They checked bus stations and airports, thinking Rachel might have tried to flee to her father in Dallas. Nothing. No trace of Rachel.
Whoever did this, and I have my suspicions about what happened, did a really good job of covering it up. And that's the problem.
As hours became days and days became weeks, suspicion focused increasingly on Vincent. Police checked his car and found no evidence. They questioned him repeatedly, and they administered a lie detector test. Vincent failed. Then the worst rumors started circulating. It hadn't just been kissing and touching. According to some friends, Rachel could have been pregnant by Vincent. With the diary entries and her friends' hunches, the reality was dark. Way darker than any 13-year-old should ever have to experience. The running theory, Vincent took Rachel's life to hide her pregnancy. To him, she was a problem that had to be erased. In January 2000, 4 years after Rachel's disappearance, a grand jury issued a warrant to collect DNA samples from Vincent. Yeah, 4 years into Rachel's disappearance. Police detained him for 9 hours of questioning. He refused to answer many questions about Rachel's disappearance. They collected samples of his DNA and hair and officially investigated him for first-degree murder. But without Rachel's body, without physical evidence linking him directly to her disappearance, charges couldn't stick. The investigation stalled. Both Vincent and Amy stopped cooperating with the police entirely. They refused to hold any memorial services for Rachel, as though acknowledging her absence would acknowledge something more sinister. In 2002, the city of Bolingbrook took matters into their own hands. They planted a memorial tree with a plaque honoring Rachel directly across from her former home in Whippler Park, a permanent reminder, a monument to unresolved justice. The Bolingbrook Police Department has openly and clearly stated they believe Vincent murdered his stepdaughter, but without her body, without forensic evidence, they remain unable to bring charges that would stick in court. The investigation into Rachel's disappearance revealed disturbing connections that cast further shadows on an already dark case. One of the lead investigators was Drew Peterson, a Bolingbrook police officer. He would later be convicted of murdering his third wife, Kathleen Savio, in 2004. Peterson's fourth wife, Stacy, disappeared in 2007 and remains missing to this day. So it wasn't long before new rumors started circulating. Rumors that Vincent might be friends with Peterson. The suggestion lingers that Rachel's investigation might have been compromised from within by an officer who would later become a convicted murderer himself. It wouldn't be the first time that the law protects the perpetrators, but it's sad and infuriating, and it begs the question, how much longer? In 2003, 7 years after Rachel vanished, Vincent faced new charges of domestic against a minor. In 2017, he was charged with drunk driving. The pattern of violence and reckless behavior continued long after Rachel disappeared from his home. Jeff Skemp believes police missed crucial evidence in those first critical hours after Rachel's disappearance.
I think that if the police search their garage the night that they first get called there, especially knowing how many times they've been called to that house. If they search that garage and open up the trunk of that car that didn't run, I bet they find her right then and there.
Amy Mellon eventually sued the city of Bolingbrook. She claimed investigators had snuck around her home and stolen photographs of Rachel without permission. She expressed anger that police weren't doing more to find her daughter. Yet paradoxically, when America's Most Wanted wanted to feature Rachel's case, Bolingbrook police declined for reasons that remain unclear. In 2001, Amy claimed to have received 3 phone calls within 3 minutes that she believed came from Rachel. There was no evidence to support this claim. Shortly afterward, she and Vincent moved to Tennessee, cutting all ties with Bolingbrook Police Department as suspicions about Vincent intensified. By the way, let's pause here for a moment. How does a mother stand by the man suspected of killing her child? Perhaps Amy Mellon couldn't face the monstrous truth about the man she chose because accepting it would mean confronting her own role in her daughter's suffering. Maybe denial was her only sanctuary. diary, even when there's diary entries detailing Vincent's heinous crimes. Or most heartbreakingly of all, maybe Amy was so thoroughly trapped in Vincent's web of manipulation that she truly believed him over the desperate final warnings her daughter left behind. Rachel's father, on the other hand, never gave up. Jeff Skemp moved from Texas to Illinois to be closer to where his daughter disappeared. He has kept the same phone number for 29 years, hoping that someday, somehow, Rachel might call. She never has.
Jeff Skemp tonight says his daughter lives only in his heart, and that a little justice would be nice. Justice in the form of an arrest.
In 2016, a private investigator hired by Rachel's family appealed for an old classmate and friend named Autumn to come forward. The investigator believed Autumn might hold information crucial to solving the case. Whether this lead produced results remains unknown. Through all of these years, Rachel's disappearance has remained officially classified as an active investigation. Evidence from 1996 remains preserved, awaiting possible scientific advancements that might finally bring answers. Today, Rachel Marie Mellon Skemp would be 41 years old. The bright-eyed 7th grader who dreamed of becoming a teacher never had the chance to grow up. Her father believes she would have been a force for good in the world. She would be on the front lines fighting against racial injustice, social injustice, police corruption. She would be doing everything within her power to help those of us who are struggling and suffering. That makes me happy. In January 2021, on the 25th anniversary of her disappearance, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an age-processed image showing what Rachel might look like at 38, a glimpse of the woman who never got to be. To her father, Rachel exists now only in memory.
I know she's in a better place, and she's not suffering.
But those left behind continue to suffer from uncertainty, from injustice, from the knowledge that someone walked away from this crime unpunished. Someone knows what happened to Rachel Marie Mellon Skemp on that bitter day in January 1996. Someone knows where she is. A $10,000 reward still stands for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Rachel's abductor and/or killer. The Bolingbrook Police Department maintains that her case remains active, with new investigators occasionally taking fresh looks at the evidence preserved from 1996. Rachel's father runs a Facebook page titled "Help Find Rachel Marie Mellon Skemp." He's devoted decades to keeping her memory alive, to seek the justice that has eluded her for 29 years. When Jeff visits the memorial tree planted for Rachel, he often brings headphones. He plays "Hand in My Pocket," her favorite song, and remembers the daughter he lost. Hope. When a child disappears, it's the only thing left. Hope that defies logic, hope that outlasts reason, hope that burns when everything else gets dark. For decades, Rachel's case has remained unsolved. But across America, other children who vanished have been found. Sometimes decades later, sometimes through advances in DNA, sometimes through confessions that finally crack open under the weight of guilt.
Sooner or later, time and guilt catch up with people. Maybe it's a family member that knew something and decided not to tell because they were trying to protect someone.
In Cleveland, Ohio, Amanda Berry screamed her way back to life in 2013. She'd been missing 10 years, kidnapped at age 16. For a decade, she and 2 other women, Gina DeJesus and Michelle Knight, suffered unimaginable abuse in a house on Seymour Avenue. Their captor, Ariel Castro, had kept them in his basement. Amanda's mother died, never knowing her daughter was alive just miles away. But Amanda escaped.
I'm the police.
Okay, and what's going on there?
I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years and I'm here.
She broke free and she came home together with Gina and Michelle. Elizabeth Smart vanished from her bedroom in Salt Lake City in 2002. For 9 months, the 14-year-old suffered daily at the hands of Brian David Mitchell and his wife. Searchers came within feet of finding her multiple times. People spotted her in public, but didn't recognize her beneath the veil she was forced to wear.
Whoever has her, please let her go.
Well, this is every parent's nightmare.
Then, a miracle happened. Someone did recognize her. Police rescued Elizabeth, and she returned to a family that never stopped searching and never stopped hoping. JC Duggard disappeared at 11 while walking to her school bus in South Lake Tahoe. For 18 years, she was held captive by Philip and Nancy Jarito. She gave birth to 2 daughters conceived by Neighbors never realized the young woman in the backyard was a captive. Then in 2009, alert campus police officers at UC Berkeley noticed something off about Gerardo. Their suspicions led to JC's identification and rescue. She was 29. Sometimes the endings aren't happy, but at least they bring answers. Jacob Wetterling was 11 when he disappeared in Minnesota in 1989. For 27 years, his parents, Patty and Jerry, wondered what happened to their son. They founded the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center to help other families of missing children. Then in 2016, Danny Henrich confessed to kidnapping, SAing, and murdering Jacob. He led the authorities to Jacob's remains, buried in a field for nearly 3 decades. The Wetterlings finally brought their son home, finally held a proper funeral, and finally placed a headstone where they could visit. At least they knew the truth. Not closure, there's no such thing when your child has been murdered, but answers. The DNA technology solves more cold cases every year. Scientific advances continue to evolve. Forensic genealogy can now identify suspects with just a trace of DNA. Partial prints that couldn't be matched in 1996 might speak volumes today. Fibers from that missing blue blanket, if ever found, might tell us where Rachel has been all these years. Cell phone tracking, digital footprints, surveillance footage, tools that didn't exist when Rachel vanished now solve cases every day. This is why we never give up on Rachel. This is why we still say her name, still share her story, and still fight for answers even 29 years later. Because somewhere, someone knows something. Someone saw something that day, someone heard something, someone has carried a secret for nearly 3 decades that's grown heavier with each passing year. Maybe it's the real estate agent who supposedly found Duke that day but was never identified. Maybe it's a neighbor who spotted Vincent doing something suspicious but was too afraid to come forward. Or maybe it's Vincent himself, now nearing the end of his life, feeling the cold breath of his own morality and wondering if he wants to meet whatever comes next, with this weight still on his soul.
Maybe it's the individual who's responsible for the disappearance themselves finally realizes that they're getting down near the end of the road and they want to make peace.
But that's wishful thinking, believing this guy has any remorse. For Rachel, we keep hope alive. Not just blind optimism, but active, determined hope that powers the search for truth. Rachel Mellon Skemp was a real girl with real dreams. She deserves real justice. And as long as we remember her, as long as we speak her name, as long as we demand answers, that justice remains possible. Could Vincent have actually been innocent all this time? What makes a mother stand by the man suspected of killing her daughter? And is Drew Peterson's involvement purely coincidental, or is it something more sinister? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more true crime deep dives. Watch another heartbreaking case by clicking the video on your screen now, and don't forget to come back for more. The truth needs to be told.